brother! Ben, as I'm sure you and the rest of the internet have heard, J.K. Rowling recently revealed her favorite fan theory and at least approves of the idea that Dumbledore represents death. Called it! Which means we need a new Harry Potter theory to speculate about, which is why today we will be discussing the oh-so-possible idea that Draco Malfoy is a werewolf. Ben, you're familiar with Draco, fellow Slytherin, kind of a twat, trying to build a rocket ship to Mars. By the way, thanks for the artwork, Alyssa. Boom. Well, although it's never explicitly stated in the book, I think J.K. Rowling was leaving us breadcrumbs that point directly to Draco being a werewolf. Let's dive in. FYI, this is for the books only, not the movies, and spoilers. Duh. For most of the series, books 1 through 5, Draco is nothing more than just a rival for Harry, a total nuisance. He causes a lot of trouble, the two of them square off over and over, but he's never really a major threat. Then, in The Half-Blood Prince, a more serious and stressed out version of Draco emerges. We assume he's so stressed out because Voldemort has tasked him with the almost impossible job of killing Albus Dumbledore during his year at Hogwarts. Because of this, most people assume that at this point in the book, Draco has followed in his parents' footsteps and become a Death Eater. But has he? Earlier in The Half-Blood Prince, Harry sees Draco scare Borgin of Borgin and Burke's. Harry assumes this is the Dark Mark, but we never actually get confirmation of it later in the book. Or ever, for that matter. Could it have instead been a werewolf bite? Well, let's look at the evidence. For one, Harry assumes that it's a dark mark, and when it comes to Malfoy, Harry tends to not be the greatest at making assumptions. He always assumes the worst about him, and although he's normally right to be suspicious, he's normally wrong about the specifics. Hermione, on the other hand, does not think that Draco is a Death Eater, and Hermione's normally right about, like, everything, so... Plus, it's well known that, despite his hatred of half-breeds, Voldemort employs Fenrir Greyback to bite the children of those who have failed him. In fact, it was Fenrir who bit Remus Lupin for this very reason. The threat of Fenrir biting someone is present through almost the entire series, but with the exception of Bill, he really doesn't bite anyone, and even then, that wasn't under Voldemort's direct orders. So, why put such a looming threat out there if it never comes to pass? Well, maybe it does, and we all miss it because we assume the target would be someone who's fighting against Voldemort and not one of his supporters. But what if Voldemort ordered Fenrir to bite Draco? I mean, after all, it's not like his father, Lucius Malfoy, is the world's greatest Death Eater. He has a lot of resources, yes, but right from the beginning, he is pretty much failing Voldemort at every turn. Like, remember when he gave Ginny Weasley Tom Riddle's diary and ultimately accidentally led to the destruction of 1/7 of Voldemort's soul? Or when he failed to retrieve the prophecy at the end of book 5 right before Malfoy showed up all emo at the beginning of book 6? Oh yeah. Yeah, those were two pretty massive failures, and yet we never really see Lucius get punished, at least not at the level you'd expect from someone like Voldemort, who, you know, once again got a piece of his soul destroyed. Unless the Malfoys did get punished by having their son bitten by Fenrir. Plus, it totally just adds to the reasons the Malfoys eventually turn on Voldemort and lie about Harry's death, because they've seen how much damage he's willing to inflict on their son, and they're not okay with it. Another fun fact, after the Death Eaters learn that Remus and Tonks are having a child, Voldemort says to Draco, maybe you can babysit the cubs. Yeah, what is that even supposed to mean as an insult? Unless he's reminding Draco that, yeah, it doesn't matter if you get bit, because you've already been bit. But let's get back to the Dark Mark and how Draco totally doesn't have one. At the end of the Half-Blood Prince, after the Death Eaters have invaded Hogwarts, they set up a barrier in the Astronomy Tower that you can only pass through if you have a Dark Mark. But curiously, it goes up after Draco has already gone up and comes down just before Draco comes down. Coincidence? And honestly, if he doesn't have a dark mark on his arm, what else could he have possibly shown Borgin that would intimidate him so much? A werewolf bite is what, especially when you couple it with the other threat Draco makes to Borgin in that same scene, that Fenrir Greyback is a close family friend and he wouldn't want him to have to pay a visit. Well, the Malfoys are certainly resourceful and intimidating, but without Lucius there, I'm thinking that to the shop owner Borgin, this threat from a 6th year Hogwarts student is gonna feel pretty completely empty, unless you have the mark on your arm to prove that you are in line with Fenrir. Guys, let's face it, Draco's a werewolf. There's just too much evidence against him. Jay, then why isn't this revealed in the book? Why doesn't Malfoy use the transformation to his advantage and embrace it like Fenrir? Well, think of Lupin. He's ashamed to be a werewolf, even wants to leave Tonks because of it. This is the normal reaction in the wizarding community. Fenrir is the weird one. I can see where Malfoy, who's always been especially proud of his pureblood heritage, would have a really hard time dealing with now becoming like a half-breed and never wanting to show it at all. Plus, it's not unprecedented for Rowling to keep certain character traits a secret, especially if they don't impact the plot. Like when she revealed Dumbledore was gay. Really interesting news! Doesn't really change the story at all. Malfoy being a werewolf doesn't change anything, and it actually fits into place really nicely. It would explain why he's more feeble in the 6th book. He probably wouldn't reveal it anyway. He would still probably use it to his advantage, like he does in Borgin's shop. Plus, Snape's eagerness to help him in the 6th book would make even more sense. Wolfsbane potion, anyone? Then my question for you and everyone else is, what do you think? Could Draco actually be a werewolf? Let me know down in the towel section below. Also, I've left a link to the website where I found a lot of this information and this theory. I thought it was really cool. The website is very fittingly named DracoMalfoyIsAWerewolf.com. So go check that out if you want to read a little bit more about this. I think it was pretty convincing. That's all I got for you. I'll see you in another life, brother.
These socks are amazing!
Guys, how great would it be if we, the Super Carlin Brothers community, who as of today are at 200,000 subscribers, holy crap, got J.K. Rowling to admit that this is true. I think everyone should take this video and tweet it at her and see if we can get an answer. How cool would that be? We could change Harry Potter forever.